Hello, everyone. Welcome back to beginner photography class. Agenda: Understanding shallow depth of field photography. Today we'll look at how to add to your photos with a shallow depth of field. I hope this useful information will help you with your photography. How to take stunning pictures. Every breathtaking picture has a story to tell. And, whether using the subject, through an artistic approach or technical choice, there are countless ways in which photography tells a story. Today we'll look at how to take a picture with a shallow depth of field. Contents. 1. Why do we take pictures with shallow depth of field? 2. What is a shallow depth of field? 3. How do you create a shallow depth of field? 4. How do you shorten the depth of field? 5. How to get a shallow depth of field? 6. How do you make great photos? 1. Why do we take pictures with shallow depth of field? Let's start today at an indoor cafe. Take a look at the shallow depth of field photos of brewing coffee at the cafe. They all find that the theme is tailored to the coffee machine, because the photographer's intention is there. Shallow depth of field, preferred by professional photographers, is one of the best techniques for separating subjects from the background. Two. What is a shallow depth of field? Experienced photographers prefer to take pictures with a shallow depth of field, one in focus, and the others out of focus to highlight one subject. This is technically affected by the aperture of the lens. The wider the aperture, the more light comes into the lens. The more light you get, the shallower the depth of field is. Here is a basic simple formula. Small f number, become a shallow depth of field. Large f number, become a large depth of field. Three. How to create shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field receives more light using a lower f number, or f-stop, from 1.4 to about 5.6. This will keep the focal plane between a few inches and a few feet. What are f-stops? An f-stop is a camera setting that specifies the aperture of the lens on a particular photograph. It is represented using f numbers. The letter f stands for focal length of the lens. Depending on your subject and area of focus point, you can blur the foreground or background of your image. First, aperture. Second, focus distance. Third, focal length. Four, how do you shorten the depth of field? How to decrease depth of field? First, widening your aperture. Opening up your lens aperture to a low f/stop can dramatically decrease the depth of field. Second, move camera closer to the subject. Third, the closer the camera is to your subject, the more shallow depth of field. Fourth, keep subjects far from each other. Fifth, lengthen focal length. Rustic image made purple flowers resting on a wooden table, with shallow depth of field. Shooting depth of field using a digital camera lens as a prop. Aim the focus on the characters of the camera lens. Five, how to get a shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field can be achieved by shooting with a lower f number, or aperture value between f1.4 and about f5.6, so that more light can enter the camera. Then the focal plane is only a few inches to a few feet. Depending on the subject and focus position, the foreground or background of the image may be blurred. Using a smaller aperture value, opening the aperture wider, allows more light to enter the camera. Another way to get a shallow depth of field is to reduce the distance between the camera, subject, and background. Even if you don't have a lens that can open the aperture very wide, like f1.4, you can get a good effect by zooming in after moving away from the subject, or detaching from the background. 6. How do you make great photos? Thanks to the shallow depth of field, we can highlight interesting parts of the image. When taking a bouquet, where can you focus when bees fly? I focused on the bees and applied a shallow depth of field. Using a shallow depth of field can grab the attention of the person viewing your photos, and highlight unexpected things. Then you need a shutter speed that's fast enough to prevent overexposure, and prevent photos from flying white. To successfully use a shallow depth of field, you need to understand the relationship between all DSLR camera settings: aperture, shutter speed, focal length, ISO. For example, the longer the focal length, the shallower the depth of field. Some people may think that photography is easy. However, the picture shows us an accurate and honest result. If you want to take your photography skills up to the next level, I encourage you to attend community college photography group classes, or college classes. To learn systematically based on the pictures and the camera, will be more capable. Take care, be safe, and remember, Today, how beginner photographers make shallow depth of field photos. I hope this information has been helpful. I've outlined how to practice as easily as possible. But if you understand this, it doesn't seem that difficult to shoot with a camera. In the next video, I'll show you some more informative aspects of photography.